Greetings and welcome back to the MCOC Encyclopedia. Today we will be covering the galactic defender himself, Nova, the auto-blocking, fury-stacking, power-gaining cosmic rocket. We will be breaking down all his abilities and the best ways to defeat him. I often see Nova brought up as a scary defender, but with a little bit of understanding he can become quite simple. The first thing you need to note is that Nova gains 30% less power from hitting you or from being hit. However, he does gain power when he dashes in towards you. This is considered by the game as a power gain effect, so any nodes that increase power gain effects will increase this as well. At the start of the fight, Nova will also gain a permanent fury buff, increasing his attack by 80%. If removed, it comes back after 12 seconds. This will be important later. Nova also has his Nova charges, and these cap out at 100. He starts the fight with 0 and generates them by dashing forward, so a dashing in Nova generates charges and power. The more charges he has, the slower he generates them, though they still do go up pretty quickly. If one of Nova's buffs is nullified though, he loses 25 charges and can't gain any more for 6 seconds. If Nova is struck while dashing forward, he'll consume 25 of his Nova charges and all of his fury buffs to auto-block that attack. When awakened, and if he has more than 75 charges, this will trigger the parry mastery. So, if you're in Arena, Alliance War or Battlegrounds, and assuming your opponent is running parry, you will be stunned by this auto-block. Nova's medium attacks deal 30% bonus red energy damage, and at 25 or more charges, his second medium can consume 25 charges and deal an additional 20% on that burst. Neither of these attacks make contact, so you can't parry them either. At 50 or more charges, Nova can auto-block whilst stunned, and doing this also purifies that stun. When Nova crosses 75 charges, he gains a fury buff, and will refresh any other fury buffs he has. Maximum of 4 of these, so 1 permanent, 4 temporary. More furies means more chances he can auto-block you. Finally, at 100 charges, Nova will go unblockable for 3 seconds. When this buff expires or is removed, Nova consumes 100 charges and the cycle starts again. A few other notes about Nova. If he is struck by an attack that is unblockable, a guaranteed crit, or you have True Strike, that attack will suffer minus 70% damage and he will generate 50 Nova charges. This means he will be going unblockable a lot. This is mostly here, in my opinion, to screw over anyone trying to use Ghost or Corvus, but it can reduce your other options for getting around his auto-block, say Mole Man. Additionally, when consuming charges against tech champions, Nova will inflict a small but very long armor break. This, again, I think is just here to mess with Ghost. No other tech champion really cares about being armor broken, and this can in fact just be free willpower healing. The only other exception is maybe Mysterio. Nova's special attacks aren't really that important on paper, but are quite annoying in the animations department. Both can be reliably fully dexed with a bit of practice. The special one pauses Nova's fury buffs and will give him a 30% energize buff for 7 seconds, increasing how much power he gains from being struck. If Nova has 75 or more charges, he will also gain a matching True Strike buff. The special 2 grants a Nova Surge buff for 9 seconds, doubling Nova's charge gain rate, and will consume up to 50 charges to deal up to 50% additional red energy damage. If unblockable, this burst is doubled. Finally, the special 3 consumes all charges to deal a burst of red energy damage depending on how many were consumed, and if Nova's permanent fury buff is on cooldown, it is instantly reactivated. Nothing especially groundbreaking here. Nova's main annoyance, then, is his auto-block and the abilities he gains from his charges. But the key to defeating Nova lies in the small print of the auto-block ability. It reads, while Nova has a Fury buff active. This means if you can nullify and control Nova's Fury buffs, he can't auto-block you. Removing these buffs also helps to keep the charges under control, as each time one is nullified, Nova loses 25 charges and can't gain more for 6 seconds. Some power control is nice to have to help deal with Nova's extra power gain when dashing in, but personally I've only really found this an issue when I'm trying to bait a special 2, and I'm a bit late and he finds himself at a special 3. Something to consider, but stick with the special 1, you'll probably be fine. It's much easier to dex as well. Luckily for us, nullifying and power control are what the Mystic class are best at. Mystics here for class advantage. Just looking at buff control, we have so many good options. Black Widow Clairvoyant, Diablo, Doom, Sorcerer Supreme, Symbiote Supreme, the Hood, so many. Keep the Furies off him and you'll be fine. Also, somehow Nova is metal, which means if you have Reg Magneto you can just go to your special 3 and nuke him. Massive bleeds, no worries. If you're having trouble getting openings versus Nova, I would suggest learning to reparry. This is a really useful technique for all sorts of matchups, but it is vital to learn against champions where you can't parry the first medium. Nova is a prime example of this, but other options include Havoc, Iron Man Infinity War, and also the Masochism node. What reparrying involves is parrying a hit when you know that it won't stun them, releasing block for just a fraction of a second, and then blocking their second attempted attack. As you can see here, I parry Nova knowing that it won't stun him, release my thumb for just a second, and then parry again. Sometimes the animation doesn't even have time to change. A really, really useful technique. So, Nova starts the fight with a permanent Fury buff. Gains power and Nova charges when dashing forward. At 75 charges, gains another Fury buff, and at 100 charges, gains a 3-second unblockable buff. Nova will auto-block attacks when he is dashing forward, as long as he has a Fury buff, though this consumes all Furies. At 50 charges, he can do this whilst stunned, and if awakened and the parry mastery is in play, the auto-block will stun you if he has more than 75 charges. Nullifying Nova's Fury buffs will remove his ability to auto-block, as well as removing 25 of his charges. Most of the Mystic class is therefore a good counter to Nova, as well as anyone else with access to Nullify. Finally, Nova is metal, so Red Magneto is also a good option. Learning to reparry will also really help get in your openings. I hope this helps you against any future Novas you may face, and do let me know how your Nova fights are going now. I would like to thank each and every one of you who stick around this long. I started this just to try and help a few people, but all the reception has been extremely positive, and it is the driving force as to why I continue. Thank you, and I will see you next time.